Well, big news yesterday. The election was finally called. Mark Carney going to the Governor General and requesting that the writ be dropped, as they say. Both parties, both main parties, raring to go. It's remarkable to me to see the decline of the NDP. I think people who told pollsters for the last several years that they were voting NDP, I think it was just sort of almost a public statement of how noble they were. It was a kind of virtue signaling, but in the end, when it comes down to the two real choices for Prime Minister, do you want Pierre Poilievre or do you want Mark Carney? I think a lot of that NDP vote is going to migrate over to the Liberals like it did in 2015 to put Justin Trudeau over the top. That, I think, is at least half of the reason that the gap is narrowing. Pierre Poilievre having a 20-point lead just a couple of months ago. Now it's basically all tied up. Part of that is I think Mark Carney changes it up. Anyone is better than Justin Trudeau, but I think part of it is the amazing vanishing Jagmeet Singh. But how is the election going to go? And will Alberta have anything to do with it, really? Or is Alberta essentially written off by both parties as a place where votes can't be moved? How will Donald Trump's threats of tariffs play out? And basically, let's just chat about everything. Joining us now to talk about these things is my friend Lorne Gunter, senior columnist at the Edmonton Sun. Lorne, in a way, parties typically don't waste time in the campaign talking to people they have a lock on and talking to people they have no chance on. It's always those battleground ridings. In the U.S., they call them the battleground states. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for Pierre Poilievre to spend too much time in Calgary, for example, or for Mark Carney to spend too much time in Montreal. What are the battleground regions in the country, and what are the battleground issues?
Well, let's start with the regions first. I mean, the battleground regions, to me, are the ones that they've always been over the last decade and a half. It's Quebec, Ontario, and the lower mainland of BC. Because you can almost form a government if you take Montreal, Ottawa, the Greater Toronto Area, and Vancouver proper.
Right.
Typically, the Conservative Party, whether it's the Canadian Alliance or the Reform Party or now the Conservative Party of Canada, takes the suburbs of Vancouver. But if you get Vancouver proper, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and you count on 30 seats from Atlantic Canada, you form a government.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the battle is going to be again this time. It didn't look like that for a while. It looked like the Conservatives had a lock on Ontario. It looked like the BQ had a lock on Quebec. But Justin Trudeau goes, and everything that the Liberals have done for 10 years, which was completely incompetent, gets tagged to Justin Trudeau when he leaves. The whole group around Trudeau is now around Carney. These are the same brains trust that ran the economy into the ground, opened up the doors to unlimited immigration, increased crime in the country by getting rid of any restrictions on bail, basically, and on and on and on. And yet this whole election comes down to two people, Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, because he's gone, and the Liberals can then go to everyone and say, we wanted to do the right thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
We were just aching to do the right thing. But Justin Trudeau kept us from doing it. So now that he's gone, we will do all those right things.
Yeah.
And a lot of Ontario, and it seems like Montreal area Quebec voters are going, okay, that sounds good to us.
Yeah.
So it just perplexes me. I am a fan of in NFL football. I'm a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, and for 20 years they have not lived up to their promise. And I go every week, and I hope in front of my TV, and I hope that they're going to get better. And now I'm starting to feel exactly the same way about the Conservative Party of Canada. Everything conspires against them. In this case, Donald Trump has come out with his preposterous, totally, utterly preposterous tariff threats. and his insults at Canada. Like I cannot believe he's just, oh, it's a very nasty country up there. They're very nasty. They're hard to deal with. Yeah, well, wouldn't that be a good thing if in trade negotiations we were tough to deal with? But I'm not sure we are.
Yeah.
You know, the last time we had trade talks with the Trump administration, we tried to throw in indigenous issues and gender equity as two things in a trade deal. Now, that doesn't make us nasty. I think it makes us naive.
Yeah.
But I think you've come down to Justin Trudeau is gone, and much of the country is really worried that Donald Trump means it when he says he's going to annex Canada. And so they're now deciding who would be best to stop him from doing that, Pierre Poilievre or Mark Carney. So it's a false issue, but that's at this point what is driving the agenda in the election. It could change over the next 5 weeks, but right now, as of day one or day two, it's the annexation and the absence of Justin Trudeau. I am saddened for the prospects of the Conservative Party.
I tell you, just a couple months ago, it looked like a supermajority. I mean, it looked like the Liberals wouldn't have a seat really west of Ontario, maybe one or two. And it was a pleasure to see Pierre Poilievre talking about fairly strong conservative ideas in Toronto, in places, and just getting huge crowds. And I think that's been taken away. I think you're right. People are afraid. I mean, Donald Trump has that Manhattan brawler style. He gives people nicknames they don't like. He yanks their chain. And most of it's for banter. But, you know, I think Canadians aren't used to it. I think some Canadians, it revives an ancient anti-Americanism that frankly goes back to the founding of our country. I think our Trump derangement syndrome media magnify it. And to be candid, Donald Trump's remarks have permitted all of those interpretations. And I see that the second lady, Usha Vance, is in Greenland. And so the idea of America increasing its territory does not feel as far-fetched as perhaps it should. I think it would be incredible if Trump's tariff pot shots saved the Liberal Party that was so rightfully destined to the trash heap. I don't know. I still think the Conservatives are going to win, by the way.
I do too. And let me give you just one example. First of all, Carney is still benefiting from his honeymoon. Mm-hmm. And that's going to wear off. Does it wear off before April 28th or after April 28th? I think he really only has about a 2-week honeymoon. And I think the last 3 weeks of the campaign are going to be very different from this first week or the first 2 weeks. Fingers crossed that that's going to happen. But Poilievre had a rally in suburban, into the north end of Toronto, right, on the first day of the election campaign. And they had so many people show up that they had to turn away hundreds of people. So, you know, the example that I used recently in a column was in Iowa, just before the presidential election in November 24. There was a poll by the Des Moines Register, which is very well respected.
Right. A rogue poll, I remember it.
Kamala Harris was ahead by 3 points in Iowa. She was going to win Iowa. She lost Iowa, I think, by 15 points. So, you know, you can tell me that we're back to the old way where a lot of people say they're voting Liberal because socially that's acceptable, but really they're voting for, they're intending to vote for the Conservatives. I mean, one of the reasons that Jagmeet Singh has spent the first 2 days of the campaign hammering at Pierre Poilievre and not at Mark Carney is not just because he spent the last 4 years as a sycophant for the Liberal Party. That's part of the reason. But the bigger reason is that Pierre Poilievre has stolen blue-collar voters away from the NDP. Right. And that's largely who pushed Trump over the top in the United States. So is it possible that pollsters don't catch these people? They don't answer numbers on their phones that they don't know. They're reluctant to do polls, or they tell pollsters the things they think pollsters want to hear. Yeah. So is it possible that instead of like a 2 or 3 point gap in favor of the Conservatives at the moment, we're closer actually to a 6 to 7 or 8 point gap? Yes, I think so. Uh, but we'll know much better after Mark Carney has had to stand up in public and answer a lot of questions. I know he's not popular with the Parliamentary Press Gallery, which is kind of funny,
Right.
because, of course, on one level, they're all so excited that he's there. It says, do you remember the initial response from the media in the United States, the legacy media in the United States, when Kamala Harris took over from Joe Biden? It was
Yeah.
like, oh, phew, oh,
Relief.
thank goodness. Oh,
Absolute
she's so
relief.
wonderful. Oh, she's one of the most caustic politicians I can remember in the last 10 or 15 years. And yet she had this, wow, we're all about joy.
Yeah.
We're just a campaign of joy.
Yeah.
And the American media lapped that up. ABC did the first and only presidential debate. It was so biased. Like you and I have complained lots of times about the Star and the Globe and the CBC and CTV increasingly now, which is just a mouthpiece for the Liberal Party. I had never seen bias like I saw those first 6 weeks after Kamala Harris replaced Joe Biden. Like, never seen that kind of bias. They were so excited that there was somebody who might beat Trump that they didn't care how biased they were.
Right.
And I think we're seeing some of that now. Like this whole idea that Trump can annex Canada. How? How do you do that? So, but the CBC says, oh, there's a real threat to Canadian sovereignty here, and the Star and the Globe and oh my goodness, he's going to try and take us over. Well, until he starts to amass divisions on the southern border, there's nothing they can do about this. There is no legal body in the world he can go to apply for annexation of Canada. We would have to have a referendum where we overwhelmingly voted to ask to join the United States. Well, he has ticked off Canadians so much that a referendum right now would be 70, 75%, 80%, maybe more. No.
Yeah.
So there is no way we're going to get annexed, but they play right into this liberal fear-mongering stuff by saying, oh, please don't annex us, Mr. Trump. And it's ridiculous.